Hello and welcome to the Guest Education Global Leadership Summit. Thank you for joining us. We're pleased to introduce Iman Hamshari, Design Thinking Facilitator and Head of Innovation at Talim Group of Schools, who will be speaking about achieving learning independency through a design thinking approach. We hope that you enjoy the session, and over to you, Iman.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you for the lovely introduction. Again, it's a pleasure for me to be here once again on Jess. Today, I will be speaking about an idea which I hope it sparks a solution for a better education in the near future for our current and for the next generation. So today I will be speaking about the smart learning objectives and how to achieve learning independency through that as a starter, let's just say, as a base for a better education. I would like to start with the background first. All right. Throughout my years as a teacher, I have always been asked to identify a learning objective for my lessons and then communicate the objective with my students. In some contexts, I was asked to have at least 3 objectives, one for students with higher abilities, let's say, one for students with average abilities, and one for the students with lower abilities. In different contexts, I have also been asked to create 3 objectives where students should reach within a time frame of 1 lesson. The learner in that time frame must start with an objective at a lower spectrum of cognitive skills spanning to a higher, more abstract skills. Now, I know that my description must have created an image in your head in which I had the perfect 3-sectioned classroom where students sit in categories and they learn objectives set for them. I could argue not. That was absolutely not the case. I was even evaluated in my appraisal as to what degree my students understood the learning objectives and the verb, what verb I used from the Bloom taxonomy that fits the progress profile of my lesson, and how frequently my students could regurgitate the objective regardless of whether it made sense to them or not. So for many years, I have manipulated my teaching practices to navigate the maze of admin requirements and ensure standardized learning objective set for a lesson made sense to my students and produced a valuable learning outcome. However, many times I could tell that I was failing and was only ticking a box in my lesson planning. The reason why is because learners were only recipient at that time, and they were only doing what they were told to do. Let's be real. Learners come into our classes and they are often, this is how I see it in my head, that they are often jailed in a computer-like box. We provide inputs and they produce predictable outputs. So our learners are no different than robots. Except that with robots, you don't have to worry about differentiation, creating intervention plans, spending hours and hours trying to understand why this robot is not performing well and why, and those outputs are not what they were intended. Now, with this scenario as my motivation, I started researching creative, unconventional ways to deliver lessons to my students in a manner that would authentically respond to their needs while exciting and engaging them. And that's when design thinking came in the picture. And would like to speak now that I had almost given up on the idea that has always been there in my mind, that it all comes down to our lesson objectives as teachers, as teachers and educators. I used lesson objectives that sounded fancy, but in essence, it gave me no explanation to how those are going to increase the level of using entrepreneurial thinking when analyzing and designing solutions. Okay, and for me to put things into perspective and for the listeners those who are listening to my presentation right now. Let me put things into perspective and imagine a lesson that regularly happens in class. So for a grade 3 animal adaptation with the following lesson objectives, let me show you, which I'm confident that most of you have used those objectives. All right, if we analyze the above objectives for a standardized grade 3 lesson about animal adaptations, if we empathize for a minute and be the students here, right? So if I am to evaluate how animals adapt to their habitats, my learner, inquirer mind would say, why? Why would I want to do that? So as teachers, are we able to guide them to deconstruct this as to where the basic logic of where the laws of cosmos lie? Now, if our answer as teachers is to analyze those adaptations that help animals survive and thrive, etc., then as a student, I could simply ask, why would I want to do that? If my answer as a teacher is to create their own animal from a combination of virtual animal parts, whatever that objective is, and explain how and why those adaptation works, then as a learner, my answer could be, how should creating that would help me relate to the world and work towards finding solutions related to the well-being of humanity? As educators, are we able to allow space for those students to investigate and inquire further and answer this inquiry? To look at it from a different perspective, and as an educator, basically, I thought we seek education to improve the well-being of humanity, don't we? And as a learner, I want to learn a valuable skill that could allow me to change my mindset, to become an inquirer, a solution designer to issues around me. And alternatively, I don't need to be taught a skill of recalling an information, as there are infinite numbers of memory games available and within reach to do that. Worth mentioning as well, as a learner myself, I don't need to spit any information taught to me in a summative assessment with multiple choices and true or false questions. Don't get me wrong here. This might have worked well in the past, but I'm afraid this is not the way to move forward for our current generation, Z, X, and Alpha. Our learners need to know how to research a specific information, connect it to another information, and be able to deconstruct, reconstruct, to be able to design a solution to improve on aspects of life around us, because that's the higher goal that we are trying to reach with our kids. Now, it would be very interesting if we could revise the way we want our children to learn and redefine what education is all about. In my opinion, as an educator and a parent, I want our children to grow up as critical thinkers and solution designers to make this world a better one in the near future, in the coming future. Now, you're going to ask me, what is the alternative then? All right, so let me move this forward. Now, my rationale behind this would be, if we think about this for a minute, it is puzzling to know that with all the learning theories, strategies, methodologies in the educational literature that currently exist, our education systems still suffer from students' low performance. There are gaps between readiness and real-world problems, and shallow problem-solving skills and higher academic attainment. Am I right? I believe you all will agree with me that this is the case right now. Now, it has much to do with the fact that what and how we teach in class. It is not how jobs work now or how life works. We did not match it with the reality of life and work. And this is my opinion, that if that is to be achieved, then something majorly good is going to happen in terms of a better quality of education. I simply believe educational stakeholders should focus planning to communicate the rationale behind a learning concept, rather than having those, fancy learning objectives set for teachers to come and, narrate in classes. We need to link learning concepts to their surroundings and allow their imagination to construct an image and then deconstruct it to learn the basic fragments of that picture and then recreate a better improved version. So it's a process, it's a mindset, it's a very enjoyable journey, rather than direct students to robotic actions to follow through what may look or sound like fancy objectives. I know that the potential is there. We could allow learners to deconstruct and make connections through creating a long chain of thoughts that will eventually lead them to the core concepts of the laws of cosmos, only if we revise our learning objectives. One way to do that is to allow space for learners to decide their learning objectives and design their own path to understanding. Let them offer possibilities to what will they do with this understanding and in what shape they might communicate this understanding and the way they use it to connect it to global issues and offer solutions. This way, we are creating meaningful, relevant learning experiences in the mind of learners. What I'm trying to say is that understanding will be revealed when students are able to transfer their learning into new and messy situations, right? Not structured, well-defined situations. Meaning that in life, whether in or out of school, students should be able to take what they have experienced and learned and transfer that to a new situation, not to a standardized one. This should take us to the learning independency that I would like to speak of. In schools, what are we achieving, right? What are we trying to achieve? I believe that in the heart of every single educator, we are trying to achieve learning independency. I must say that it all comes down to the independence we offer as teachers to kids in school. I believe there's so much control that is assumed in the roles of teacher-students relationship, while in fact it should not be like that. Our roles as educators should not be more than a guide on the side. When our kids in class have the space to achieve competency through this independency, so to define independency in the simplest way possible, it would be to think of educating kids in class as parenting your own child. So, for example, say you're allowing your child to cook and make food by themselves. What is the goal here? The goal is that at, excuse me, sorry about that. So we were saying that if we could look at educating our kids in class as parenting our own child. So, for example, if we're allowing our child to make food by themselves, then the goal is that at some point in time, they will feel competent to do this in a situation without you as a parent present, right? Present there and watching you, watching your child doing that. If you are encouraging your child to go to the store or walk to a friend's house without you, then you are hoping that this will lead to a sense of competence later in the future when they learn that they have to figure something out, not even though if they don't have the exact step or plan to do that. This leads and reminds us that it is essential that we start thinking of revising the curriculum and analyze carefully why we put those standards to follow in the first place, which takes us to achieving independency through the curriculum. So the other day, I was listening to one of John Spencer's podcasts. John Spencer is a design thinker as well. He's very known in that field. He's also an educator. He had a guest on that podcast. His name is Maktai. Sorry about that. Let me just mute. All right. Sorry about that. So yeah, I was telling you about John Spencer as a design thinker and an educator. He had a guest called Maktai. He was talking about the learning independency, and I loved that podcast because Maktai was able to define the learning independency, and he spoke of the performance tasks in the curriculums as a way and a key to achieve that independency. He explained that a performance task is any learning activity or assessment that asks students to perform to demonstrate their knowledge, understanding, and proficiency. Performance tasks yield tangible product. This is how he explained it. I loved his explanation. It yield tangible product performance that serves as an evidence of learning. He explained that performance tasks are routinely used in certain disciplines. Now, this is where it stopped me, because it's right, it's true. It is used in disciplines such as visual and performing arts, physical education, career technology, where performance is a natural focus of instruction. However, such tasks can and should be used in every single subject area and at all grade levels. I agree with that in the sense that performance task takes us back to the learning independency, where kids in school are given that opportunity to learn and be competent for a performance, maybe later in that day or that month or that year, or maybe in life for that matter. And then this has sparked an idea in my mind that, however, the key to making any performance task relevant and meaningful is to be able to fail the performance and continue learning. Unlike tests, where if you fail them, you are shamed, blamed, or guilted for it. We have all been there, right? Now, when then kids are left with two choices, either to make obtaining higher grades in tests their mission in life, regardless of making connections to life challenges or anything surrounding them, like tangible challenges, like real life challenges. Or the other choice is to become apathetic, where they don't care at all and they completely disconnect. Now, we as a school system and curriculum writers might not see how dangerous that can be as kids grow up with either the ignorance mentality or the apathetic mentality. So, doesn't know or they don't care if they know, they're both very dangerous for kids when they grow up. And performance tasks can fall into the same category of tests if they are not authentic, and if we need to make sure that performance tasks are allowing, we need to make sure actually that performance tasks are allowing spaces for those kids to design their way to learning new things, new possibilities, and new dimensions. Otherwise, we are, as an educational system, we are failing those kids when we try to produce the same version of people who are told to do, what to learn, and how to do it. And then make them believe everyone should be either a doctor or a lawyer to become socially accepted. We could avoid that. We could allow kids to perform, imagine solutions, and fictional and real life challenges. So, in essence, it is this is what we are. This is the message that I am trying to achieve through this presentation. That kids they have potentials, and especially this generation, they really do have a mind of their own. They are exposed to so many opportunities, to so many learning concepts. What we do in school should complement that. We should celebrate their brains, right? Rather than contain it. They have ideas. You only need to put them in the correct context to be able to spark that creativity in them. And this is one of the way to do that. It's all about making them and allowing them to design their own path, their own understanding, their own learning, without dictating that to them, without telling them what to do and how to do it. It's okay, like with concepts, this is a design thinking approach. If you have any concepts in any discipline, it is okay to let them research that concept on their own and let them formulate what we call a problem statement. Let them create that statement and let them dig deeper in it to try and connect it to something, an issue around them. This would give valuable meaning to their learning. So when next time they ask, why am I learning this? Then you, as an educator, you will be able to connect it to something valuable, and you will be able to translate it to them. So with that, like always, I don't like to have lengthy presentation. With that, I would love to thank Danny for the opportunity to speak today, and thank you all for listening. I tried to communicate a thought that I truly believe in, as I have experienced the flaws of educational system as a learner, as an educator, and as a parent as well. So I hope this thought could be a reality in the near future, and that my presentation has sparked something in you to make a difference in the education for tomorrow. That was me. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. That was great. Thank you so much, Iman, for your inspiring presentation. If anyone from the audience has any questions pertaining to the session, you can connect with Iman through the networking system on the virtual event platform. We'd also love to hear from you, so feel free to share any thoughts or comments by sending us an email to marketing@guesteducation.com. We'll be on social media as well during the summit, so if you want to chat to us there, follow us on Twitter @guesteducation and use the hashtags #guestglobal and #guesteducation. We hope that you enjoy the rest of the event. Thank you, and bye-bye for now.